What's going on, YakAngler? This is Landingcrew, Mark Wheeler, and I'm going to do a how-to. I had a City of Ash called the radio show last night about pointers, and I started talking about drop shots, and I started to realize that not everyone knows how to use a drop shot correctly. So I actually lost sleep about this because drop shots are one of those techniques, I should say, that should be in everyone's repertoire, especially coming up here. Um, we got the spawn, we got the colder weather. It just fits perfectly. I have a full box, okay, just for drop shotting. That's how important it is for me, okay. I mean, just everything you can think of, just for drop shotting. And I use it for not only fresh but salt water. But more on that later. So what do you need to start off with? Well, you need to start off with a bunch of hooks, and I've got some larger hooks here that I use for the salt water and for spawn times when I'm going after bigger fish. But 90% of the time, I'm using like size 1, size 2, even smaller, depending on the bait size. Octopus hook, wide gap octopus, mosquito hook. Mosquito just means it's really thin. It's just a larger one so you can see it better. All the way up to when I'm using larger hooks, and I use only owners for this. I have and now that the choke car is out, I use choke cars too. But up to 4 octopus hook. Okay, one of these. Yeah, this is the octopus. Yep. Okay. Even, VMCs, big wide gaps when I'm using larger baits. Not necessarily the 5-aught, but consider that like a 1-aught. It's as big as I'll go. With brush hogs, with larger fluke styles, trick worms, even my big beaver baits and tubes are all. You could use any, salamanders, frogs, you name it, you got it. So you go out and you buy the hooks. The next thing is the weight. You can use any weight you'd want, but there's only one that you really should buy. And the style doesn't really matter in the lead, but it's that right there. If you can see that, okay, that's the pinch style. Buy these. These are important because when you're working an area with the rocks or whatever, you want that ability to not get snagged, not to lose the whole rig. Because then you're screwed. It takes a long time sometimes to tie one of these, especially when you're using light line, and light line is a must. Fluorocarbon is a must. Okay? So, I throw this, I'm aggressive with it, so I use a bait cast reel spooled with 20-pound vicious braid, and 8 feet, and that seems like a lot, but I use 6 to 8 feet of vicious 10-pound pro fluorocarbon. It's light, it's flexible, does a great knot, and it's clear in the water, which is key. Just remember, folks, after I tie this, you realize that the fish is going to contact that bait at some point, so, or the line at some point, and when they bite it or whatever, you need to have that ability for them not to realize that it's there. Okay, so let me show you how to tie this up. I'm going to take the hook, and it's pretty simple. This is the tag, this is the line, if you can see that. You can pull off, at least 18 inches depending on your water depth. I'm actually just going to use mono because I like my fluorocarbon. And just tie a Palomar, basically. As far, you can go as little as 8 inches, as far as 14. And you hear people say, "Oh, you got to be careful. The hook has to go up." Well, here's a trick for that. Okay, it's so hard I can't even see it. All right. That's how easy it is to tie one of these hooks up. Okay. Now, ouch, it's my finger. If If what's in my left hand is the main line, okay, and this is the tag end, you're going to take that tag end and run it from the point side, okay? Remember, what's on my left is going to the main line. Here's the trick, okay? You're going to take the tag end, run it so where the point is up, from the point down through the eyelet again, okay? And what this is going to do is, no matter what, make that hook run up, okay? Now, the reason for that is that fish comes in, okay, and he eats this, alright? He's going to eat it, and the line's going to be in the way. When you pull it, it's going to come right to the top of his mouth. Every time. And you're not viciously setting the hook. You're just coming tight and giving a pop, okay? Because he's going to eat it, and he's going to turn and go down, and you're just going to knock him in there. It's never going to be center. It's going to be just off to the left and the right. He's going to eat it, feel the line, go down in any direction. Okay? I have never hooked a fish in the bottom lip or the side. It's always been right to the top. Okay? And that's how you do it. Remember, from tag line, from the hook point down. Okay? Alright. So you set up like that. How does the weight work? Okay, it's pretty simple, really. What I do, just to make sure I don't lose this on the cast, because I do cast this, okay? And if I know I'm going to be casting far distances, like spawn, pre-spawn, whatever, I'm just going to make a little loop and tie that off, okay? Right? You see that? I have a very little, just quick overhand knot. Make sure I'm going through on a clean piece of line here. Hit that knot. Once I hit that knot, okay, all I'm going to do is cinch that up. If it wants to work with me. Okay? It's cinched up. See how that is? Now that hook's on. Now that's on there. So this way this can break off and with no problems. And that knot's there in case this gets loose. It's going to hit that and not come off. Okay? Unless I break the hook, the weight off. Okay? You've got a drop shot rig right here. Ba-ba. Simple as that. Okay? Now, how do you rig these? And I see a lot of guys rigging them Texas style and do that normally. Yeah, go ahead, rig them Texas style. If you're using an extra Y-gap hook, go for it. But you're going to want to use an octopus wide gap, okay, 99% of the time. Unless you're working cover, then go with weedless. Okay? So, and I'm going to show you how to rig this weedless at the same time. This way you're not retying. So, let's say I'm going to use the trick worm, okay? Trick worm style. And this is very simple. You see a lot of guys that are just going to come straight up and out, okay? That's it. Simple as that, folks. Nothing special about that. But I do it a little differently. Now, remember, for this part, you're going to actually measure from the tip to where the curve of the shank is. Okay? That's where the tip's going to come through. And don't go all the way through. Only go about halfway. Alright? And then thread that on there. So the hook point isn't showing. Alright? I only do this with my softer baits. If I have a harder bait, the zooms, the shaky tails, that's a stiff bait. And then I'll just barely poke that nose through because they got a little concave from where they poured it. But if it's a softer bait like the power baits, I'll go ahead and just, you know, if you just touch it, you can feel the point as far as I'm going to go. Just like that. Okay? If I am, let's say I'm working this bait in open areas over rocks, stumps, and I start seeing brush, and I want to fish brush. To quickly run the same bait, but weedless, even simpler than that. Rig it Texas style. I'm just going to barely skin hook it, bring it up, just like that. Simple, right? I haven't done anything rocket science. Alright? That's all it is. Now, how you work these baits. It's going to sit there, and if you pop the rod tip, okay, see that action on there? but I want that bait to not move. So I'm going to actually create a little bit of slack in the line and just wiggle it around, wiggle, and then just let it sit there. A lot of times you'll get a bite, but just let it sit there. Okay, you want a neutral baits. If I'm really working pressured fish, the power bait, trick worm, a Senko style, or here's another trick worm that works great. Senkos work really well, and they're versatile. You can go straight from a regular minnow jerkbait style to wacky in a split second. Brush hogs, your creature baits work great. The trick worms, if I really want to work them, I don't like using trick worms just because they're real limp for anything else. But if I need to create a huge amount of movement, same thing with these trick worms. They're a little limp, but when they get in the water, they're neutral, and they just kind of wiggle. That tail just kind of wiggles. If I need to really move the bait, folks, an old school fluke, sluggo, beautiful for this stuff. Bigger creature baits, I'll use a bigger hook like this one here. And do the same thing. Rig them the same way. Just make sure I got it right. Just like that. Okay. You drop this over. If you can buy white brush hogs, just like this, throw that in a bed in the spawn. 2 hands. Crawls like that. Brush hogs, big brush hogs. And that's when I'll move up to using the 5/0, and I'll move up to 12 pound instead of 10. And I'll work those beds with this. And I'll even move the hook, move it closer to here. I'll use a recoil rig. More on that some other time. Tubes. Instead of rigging the tube, this is kind of cool. Instead of rigging the tube like this, rig it like this. Same idea. Through. When you get to the top, right out like that. Okay? Now you got these tentacles, and you actually let it drop. Bring it up. As soon as you feel that weight, you stop. And you just let it drop again. You got the perfect, the quintessential, quintessential crawfish imitation. Okay? Use craws. Feel free. Here's a crawl imitation. If I took off the nose, the long tendrils, I call it a brush hog, which is, kind of what it looks like. Alright? This is that bait all disconnected. Alright? It's basically a crawl. See? Crawl. Okay? Yeah. It is that effective. Okay? I mean, just, the sky's the limit. As crazy as you want to go, as simple as you want to go. And don't be afraid. This is the anaconda. It's got a long tail. This is one of those neutral baits where I'll actually just barely lift it and slowly just barely work the rod tip. I'm not moving the weight at all. Okay? Because it's nice if I'm sitting there and I'll pitch and cast this 9 times out of 10. Docks, rocks, small boats, anything. I'll pitch it and let it sit there. I'm just going to jiggle it. Jiggle it. Jiggle it. Let it sit. Semi-tight line. Okay? I'm just going to sit there and jiggle it. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. Nothing. All I'm going to do is go. Whoop, plop. Slightly slack. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. Just like that. You're going to feel it. Dunk. And then wait. You're going to actually feel some weight on the end of the line. And all it is boop. He's got it. Yes, there's slack down here, but it's tight from here. He's going to bite it. He'll start to move. That little snap. He's done. Put him on the stringer, take your picture, get your, victory shot, and that's done and over with. That's it. I mean, simple as that. Doesn't get any simpler than that. That's how I rig them. Saltwater, I use heavier hooks. I'll use, yeah, I've got a couple in here. There's another. I use circle hooks sometimes. If I'm working with real finicky fish, or fish that are really aggressive, they're hitting and taking off, I use circle hooks because they'll grab it, they'll start to run, and then the hook's going to ride up and catch them every time. You know, big, big, extra wide gaps, bigger baits, big Senkos, big flukes, heavier hooks, you know, because I'm going after reds, stripers, trout, stuff like that, and they work great for all these species. So add this to your repertoire. It'll catch you more fish. I guarantee it. I can guarantee you'll catch more fish. Just trust it, rely on it. It's not a, you know, starting off, don't power fish it, okay? Just simply, if you know there's fish or you have an idea and you want to work an area really well, go to a drop shot, okay? The next part of this is actually me out in the water using this setup, and I'll show you how I incorporate it into my daily fishing. Because you can almost guarantee I'm going to have one of these tied up at some point during my day. You cannot go wrong with a drop shot. Hope you try this technique. It will put more fish in the boat, I guarantee it. Again, this is Mark, Landingcrew Wheeler with YakAngler.com with my daily tips and tricks. Check out the website. Let me know if you want any more. All right, folks. Tight lines.